Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Reaoch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the business connection. It's the world's first English language internet radio program about business in Brazil, and now in podcast format. I'm Tom Reaoch, an American in Brazil for many years, and known as the King of Networking here. I'm a speaker and also author on networking. A professional business network is made up of people we meet every day, and our network grows and is sustained by maintaining contact with those connections. And podcasting is a modern form of networking. I'm talking from the city of Campinas in the state of Sâo Paulo, Brazil, so when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Today's guest is Vanessa Puerta. Vanessa Puerta is an interculturalist and corporate communication professional with over 20 years of experience in marketing, corporate affairs, customer service, and ethics, and compliance in multinational companies. And today we're going to talk about business, cultural differences in Brazil, and how to understand Brazilian habits in communicating. So with that, hello, Vanessa, and welcome to Talk to Brazil.
Hello, Tom. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a very important topic because more than just cultural awareness, intercultural management is about learning how to lead global organizations with a diversity of profiles all over the world.
And that's what we've seen in terms of business when a foreign company comes, sets up their business here. Many times the conflicts arrived in misunderstandings that come through communication. And for our audience, for preparation of this, I had asked Vanessa to send me some tips that we would be considering. And one of them, you said, Brazilians have 16 ways of saying no.
Yes.
How is that?
Well, you can hear maybe, let's see, who knows, sometime, but you'll never hear no. Because for Brazil, saying no is very strong, and they don't want to be bad at you. Because they take conflict as personal, and they will never say no. They will never, if they have a feedback, they take feedback from a personal standpoint. And they think the feedback is not about the product or service you are offering, but it's about the person.
It's about
so
them.
That's why it's about them, yes. So that's why they avoid conflict and they will never say no. So if you start hearing, let's see, call me next month, then you can have some tips that maybe the business is not going to be closed.
But they'll never say to you then, I'm not interested in your business or your product.
Yes.
All right. Now, for a foreigner, for an American like me, when I came down, that was the same shock. Sometimes I would say to people, I was not interested in their product. I said, thank you, but I'm not interested. And to say no, then you're saying Brazilians will take that as an offense.
Yes, because Americans or Europeans, they have a direct communication. They go straight to the point. They really say what they mean. And in Brazil, it's an indirect communication. So they will say, maybe they will try to be polite, but they will hardly ever say no. And also, that's why it's difficult to unveil if the Brazilian is going ahead with the business or not. Because also another important point is important for Brazilians to build relationships. And they will use time, they will invest time trying to know about you, about your family, about other things. And because they're building this relationship, building trust with the person they are going to make business.
Oh, I see that when you sit down to talk about business, a 15-minute business conversation, 14 minutes are about soccer or churrasco or something else. Is that typical?
That is typical, and they don't realize that soccer is a national passion, and not all the countries follow soccer. So they will ask, what is your favorite team? But maybe you don't know about soccer. Well, if you are an Italian or Spanish or English, probably you follow soccer. but for an American or for other countries, they might not follow. So Brazilians, they are now they are starting to talk about culture, but they don't know about cultural differences. They think what they are and the view that they have of the globe, of the world, is what is, and they are not aware of these cultural differences.
Oh, I've seen that many times. People, not only Americans, foreigners come to Brazil, and what they know of Brazil may be the traveling, the beaches, the leisure part, but they want to come for a business discussion, and sometimes. What they've said to me is that it's been very difficult to start a discussion just about business.
Yes, it is. Because for Brazilians, that might be aggressive or offensive because they do need to know the person who they are dealing with. They want to know your background, if you can be trustful, and next steps. At one company that I worked, it was an international engineering firm. Mm-hmm. So the headquarters, they wanted to send the proposals with the contract to the client. And then our manager said, no, we have to send the proposal. We'll have lunch. We'll have a meeting. We'll present our project, everything. Then we will agree on the next steps. Then we are fine. The contract will be separate. We'll go afterwards. If you send the contract straight away, means you don't trust the Brazilian team here. So, and then now I think things are a bit different due to compliance, due to ethics in the business place. So now things are changing here in Brazil. And then Brazilians are learning that it's okay to go straight to the point. It's okay to talk about contracts. It's okay to talk about the details because it's all about this global business environment.
Right.
And then we needed to adapt. Mm-hmm.
Now, and when we see in the world today with startups, with all the part of innovation, venture capitalists looking places to invest, and people also talking today about a pitch, a sales pitch or a presentation pitch to be able to explain your company or your business plan. The time for a pitch is something like 10 to 15 minutes. And that's the time you get. So do you see the Brazilian startups or the younger business persons, are they adapting to that?
Yes, the younger Brazilians, business people, they are now getting adapted to that because it's a need. We have a lot of communication tools or platforms, and we have very little time to catch up the attention of clients and of the market. So they are now, we have very good business schools here in Brazil. All these young people, they are traveling around, living abroad to get to know more cultures and how business work in other places. Yeah, but one important thing talking about communication tools, there was an Iranian American business guy I met, and he said he was here in Brazil leading a project, and once he arrived in the office in the morning, and his peer told him, "Hey, let me deal with the team. You tell me what you need, what you want, and I will talk to the team." And then he said, "But why? What happened? All is fine." Then he said, no, because the team is complaining that you are not polite in the emails. You just write the email, hey, do this and that and that. And then the Brazilians were saying, you don't say please, you don't say good morning, how are you, how was weekend? And even with a small line, just to make an introduction or just starting, it's important. And then he was disappointed. He didn't understand anything. But then he learned, he said, now I care about people and I ask them how they are feeling because I know it's about business, but it's all about relations.
I understand and I agree with what you're saying. But what I've seen happening is the opposite. If you take a Brazilian and if he's transferred to the United States or to Europe to another environment as part of his business, the reverse also happens. sometimes when he goes to the foreign country as a member of his own company, he can be perceived as not being objective, of just wanting to talk.
Yes, that happens because when people from the headquarters come to Brazilian offices, they think, wow, this office is too noisy. People talk too much. They don't go straight to the point. They're late to meetings. And that for these people who are used to the direct communication and very focused with timing and deadlines, seems to be a little bit or weird or not a not serious business environment. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. It's part of our culture. It's cultural. For example, Brazilians, it's very important their lunchtime. Anything they have, they leave to have lunch. And they talk about many things, contrary to other countries who buy some sandwiches and eat while work. For right. Brazilians, they recharge batteries, they go to the bank, they have issues to solve, but they always talk. And most of the time, they are talking about work, about the company, about the people that work there. So sometimes they come with ideas during lunchtime, but it's very important to leave office for lunch.
And that too is something that foreigners need to adjust to. I think that's one of the things that people that I've talked to, when they come, they're very aware of that.
Yeah, because it's a very informal environment. So people talk, people go to the cafe, they talk on the coffee area, and it's very informal. But there is where they are building relationships. They are having ideas. If someone comes to the office and he or she doesn't talk or is quiet, then people think, what is he doing? Why is he acting that way? Is he not motivated?
Well, I have a business friend here at the American Chamber one of our members, and his business is having coffee machines. He installs coffee machines in companies. Mm-hmm. And one of his challenges was exactly that. Many multinational companies would not put the coffee machine in because they thought it was a waste of time, waste of space, and cost. No, and from some aspects, it's true. But I mentioned to him, I says, what you need to do, you have to sell, because in Brazil, having a coffee, it's not drinking the coffee. Having the coffee is a cultural experience.
It is.
And what I say, and I told him, I says, and I tell everybody that, in Brazil, business starts with coffee.
Yes, it starts and finishes with coffee.
Or finishes, and you always arrange another coffee, right?
Yes.
At the end of every meeting will be, let's sit down and have coffee again. So
yes, and that's good. If the person invites for a coffee and really schedules the coffee, because they might say, let's have a coffee sometime, and the coffee never happens.
Right.
But if they say, let's have the coffee, and then they say, let's have a coffee tomorrow, and then you can know that that's going to happen, and the business is getting some progress.
Well, what's your suggestion? Could I, if a Brazilian asked me, let's have a coffee tomorrow, could I say that would be great? I'd like to take a proposal to look over during the coffee. How would that sound?
You can have that. If the subject arises, then you can show your offer, but you can little by little start talking about the offer or the proposal or the service after talking about all other subjects that you might see. So my tip is, learn about Brazil, learn about our seasons, learn a little bit about our food, about our music. You can bring some links, and Brazilians love to learn about like trips or hear about like connections, things that are similar or not. But then you can have something if the conversation the conversation progress arises, and then you can show what you brought. But
I look at it this way. Let's say I'm an American. My boss sent me down here to set up some meetings, to talk to people, to understand the market. And let's say that I was able to set up 4 or 5 meetings in a day, and I'm going to be here for 4 days, right? I think. So I'm going to be here for 4 days. I'm going to have 4 meetings every day. That's 16 meetings. And I know traffic's bad in Sâo Paulo, so we're gonna work on that. And the Brazilians like to have lunch and everything you just said. But at the end of the week, I have to go home and I have to talk to my boss. And I don't know if he's going to want to, what he's going to say when I said that I had 3 coffee meetings with the Brazilian, and we talked about a whole lot of things. And it just never got to the point of showing a proposal. I'm not sure what my boss would say when I got home.
Yes, and that's an issue because, unfortunately, I might say that your boss and you might be a little bit disappointed or even frustrated.
Or worse.
Or worse, yes. Because, well, if it's your first time, you need to have a Brazilian with you. You might know someone from Brazil. And this was told me by many Americans or Europeans who wanted to start their business here, because they needed someone who they know, a person that they trust, that they know, to arrange this meeting and make these connections for you. And even though Brazilians now, they speak better English, they've been abroad and all this, they might not be confident or really understand or really communicate what their needs, what his or her needs are, or what they are really expecting. So there might be a lack of communication in this point with language and with these expectations from both sides.
Right.
And that's it. And then if you come first, and that's, I heard from many people, I know an American, he's in Brazil for 20 years, and he says, I only work for multinational companies because I'm American, I can communicate with the headquarters. But here in Brazil, it's very hard when every month I need to send my reports, and, this client postponed. This client never answers. This client, because in the United States or other countries, they have this client says, no, I don't want now. This project's not going ahead now. Just for next year, just in 2 years' time. And then that's a point. And it's, even the companies I worked, we faced this problem. It was an engineering firm, as I said. So it was like strategic projects for our clients. And they didn't have a final decision because they were depending on this, on that, and that. Right. And our economy, that is kind of a roller coaster. So all this, in the end, they leads to postponements and sometimes they don't have an answer. They are waiting.
I've seen that, and having worked for multinational companies, many and almost all the companies that I know, they have a CRM set up. They look at their pipeline, as they call it, and everybody's watching on that flow of business. And that's not only the person involved in Brazil. All of the divisions worldwide access the system and compare, and they can see how long it takes for business to mature or not in Brazil, and how fast or slow it matures in other countries in the world. And on a global platform, and I see that with companies here in Brazil, you don't always have the time to explain to your boss back home because he's looking into a system and he's seeing that the pipeline in Brazil may be full, but the conversion is very low.
Yes. Yeah,
and the cost of doing business then in Brazil is very high.
It is, yes. Labor laws, all the labor.
No, not only the labor laws, the cost of sales, the cost of getting to yes. Yeah. As you said, if Brazil, they don't want to say no, but they also don't say yes. So the cost of getting to yes, the cost of getting to signing a contract is comparatively speaking higher than other cultures, right?
Yes.
And that's back to what you said. The person wants to send the proposal and the contract together and expecting everything to be signed in a 15-minute meeting. That's the expectation outside. Because other places do that. Other places in the world do that. But Vanessa, what I want to do, I know this topic is complex. It's not easy. And what we've talked about a little today is from the Brazilian side and foreigners coming here. I want to set up another podcast, and I want to direct this more to our Brazilian audience of how to better prepare for what we just said, going out into the world, say the United States, Europe. You've had a chance to spend time in Europe as well, so you have a good feeling of that throughout Latin America. So things are different everywhere. So how can we help Brazilian companies become better and get out into the world and help the foreign companies understand better how Brazilians function? How's that?
Yeah, it will be a pleasure for me. I'm glad for this. Thank you for this space. I'm glad to help. And I think Brazilians now are starting to get more aware of cultural differences. They now understand if they didn't get, or if they didn't really comprehend what was asked, ask again. If Brazilians, if they are now Brazilians are aware now that if they don't understand what is being asked or what is being what is needed or the expectations, they can ask. It's okay to ask. It's okay to say you don't understand. So check, give examples, follow up. Don't wait till the final deadline to say I couldn't, it was not possible. So I think one if I would give a tip, the main one is this: follow up, ask again. If you don't understand, try another way of asking. Don't wait for the deadline. So I think this is a very
not answer, right? I think the worst answer is not answering, right?
Is not answering, yes, because Brazil, for other countries, timing is very important, and Brazilians sometimes they are not really conscious of this need and this importance of these deadlines. That's why it's important for them to be like present, to understand, to ask, and really communicate, listen. Yeah, so I think that's important.
Good. Well, we're going to be back and we're going to be talking more about this, okay? So I want to thank you again for your time and sharing your day with us and our audience.
Thank you. I thank you, Tom.
Okay. And I'd also like to invite and thank our audience to visit our website, which is talktobrazil.com. That's TALK, the number 2, BRAZIL.com, where you'll find today's interview with Vanessa Puerta, more information about her and her professional career, and also a link to her LinkedIn profile. You can also find this and our previous shows of Talk to Brazil on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Himalaya, Castbox, Google Podcasts, and many others. And thanking you again, our audience, and remind everyone that today's program was brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, and Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their site, which is focusmi.com. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Reaoch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.